Chapter 2. Reflections of the Sun with a twist of foreboding. The two comrades sat at the end of a small pier as the sun drifted lazily across the sky far above their heads. The beautiful weather was a constant, as all summer activities were now becoming second-hand before the approach of the fall season. Even tank tops and shorts were feeling less like fashion and more like a way of life. All the patrons along the beach behind them had at least that much to wear, if not less. The lack of modesty from this planet was beginning to wear upon those who were not from this part of the galaxy. To one of the patrons, it was an unbearable task to try and fit in. The other did not seem to mind it one bit. The latter of the two was entranced in a small book, a romance novel of sorts that she had selected from the bookstore earlier in the week. It was a sort of habit that she had picked up when they were first stranded on this planet over 4 years ago. It wasn't as if there was a shortage of romantic adventure stories throughout the galaxy, but given their extended stay, the selection was a bit, well, selective. Earth stories in general had a basic standard of boy meets girl, the two fall in love, have extended adventures through some daunting perils before ending in a grand finale of lust and desire afterward. It took Ree 27 romance novels before she got the impression that maybe there was something similar about them. Given her limited knowledge of Earth culture, she accepted the fact that since the names were different, then the story must be unique as well. Her kinsman, on the other hand, had another opinion about the whole subject altogether. Kaya removed her dangling feet from the water, pulling her knees up to her chin. Her dark brown hair cascaded over her shoulders, parading over her knees, as if to hide her body from the watchful eyes of the world. Her dark brown eyes were camouflaged behind the shroud of hair, making it easier for her mind to drift elsewhere. 4 years was a long time to be stuck in the backwater alley of the galaxy. She could just imagine her cohorts back at the intergalactic ambassador's office, laughing their heads off at the notion of them being sent there on a mission of peace. It was a fine prospect at the beginning. Just after arriving, they approached the leaders of the world with good tidings from the offices of the IGA. It wasn't until their 3rd time in an earthbound prison that they began to suspect their assignment was not going to be as easy as they once thought. Later, Kaya found out that the people of Earth had not even achieved starflight yet, and would not for at least another 100 Earth years. It was then that she finally figured out why they were there in the first place. They were in the way. Brushed off to the side like the pair of worn-out sandals that sat behind her. Now it was all too apparent that they had no real future with the IGA, and were just biding their time until Earth was indeed ready for extraterrestrial contact. And it was all because of her. Kaya glanced over at Ree, trying not to find any more reasons to throw her off the pier and into the water. Vega 6 still loomed deep within the confines of her mind. As much as she wanted to, Kaya's small sense of compassion got the better of her. It wasn't all Ree's fault. Then again, she did try to offer them their own nationally endangered animal, the walrus, as a festive peace offering. Like trying to give a gold coin to a beggar and telling him to throw it in the well and make a wish. They were run off the planet somewhat earlier than anticipated. Not to mention that stupid greeting she got wrong. Kaya shook her head. I should have joined the Starflight Academy when I had the chance, she thought. But then again, she had to remind herself, there was an even greater reason why she didn't. It was bad enough that she and Ree were cousins, once removed from her father's side, but for some screaming reason they always managed to be paired up in the most unlikely of situations. It all happened when they were both 6 years old. Kaya was a scout trainee, and Ree just happened to be put in with her group. It appeared as if the run of misfortune for Kaya started then. It followed her, along with Ree, through school and into advanced pilot's training afterwards. Kaya had always wanted to enlist in the Altarian Starflight Academy. Keeping the peace and exploring the uncharted reaches of the galaxy was something that she had often dreamed about as a child. But once re-entered the picture, all her hopes and dreams were lost. If it wasn't for the fact that Kaya's father was a dignitary from their homeworld of Altera, they would not have made it as far as they did, becoming ambassadors to worlds who had been recently accepted into the Galactic Society of Peace. Working for the IGA made for promising careers, save for one small problem. Ree always found a way, though more unintentionally than not, to mess up the initiation for newly accepted governments. Now, not even Kaya's father could help them out of this predicament. They were stuck, obligated with an assignment that could not be fulfilled for at least a century. A slight breeze pulled the coolness off the water and pushed it toward the two as Kaya closed her eyes. She embraced the small relief from the blazing sun, her thoughts trying to improve on her current situation. She wondered what Wanda was up to. Until recently, it had only been Kaya and Ree that were stuck here on the planet. But an old familiar face had appeared to them. Wanda used to be one of the teachers at the Science Institute on Altera, where Kaya and Ree went to school. She had claimed that she left to do extended research along the outer rim of the galaxy, but Kaya knew better. Popular rumour was she was kicked out of the school for violating safety codes and took refuge out where no one could find her. But Wanda was the last one who would tell anyone about the real truth behind the matter. Since their run-in on Earth, the three had managed, for a while at least, to coexist in the same house. But Kaya always found herself stuck in the middle of either Wanda's crazy research assignments or Ree's ability to cause everyone grief. A small sigh escaped Ree as she put down her book and gazed dreamily across the lake. She gave out a light, methodical laugh, her cheeks turning to a slight shade of cherry. She shook her fiery red mane as if to shake the worries of the world off her shoulders. Which would lead anyone to ask, did she truly have any? "Oh, that was wonderful," Ree spoke aloud, not addressing anyone in particular. Her sky-blue eyes blinked from the constant glare off the water. She turned to talk to her cousin, as if she had suddenly appeared from out of nowhere. "You should read this one, Kaya." She began to push the book toward her. Kaya lurched away the closer it came. "No thanks," she mumbled, turning her head away, trying to focus on something else. "The thought of being a hopeless romantic like you isn't very gratifying to me right now." Ree giggled again as she picked up the book and held it to her chest. "Hopeful, Kaya," she corrected, as another breeze brushed their cheeks once again. "It's not as if the world is going to end. At least, not this one anyway." Kaya turned to her cousin, not feeling any better by her self-reflected praise. "Keep dreaming," she groaned as she started to rock herself. Kaya began to think of the few little quirks she developed over the years to maintain her sanity around her fool-hearted cousin. "But this is a good one," protested Ree, "about a girl who gets stranded far away from home. Then she meets this man who helps her get back, and then they fall in love and go on all these wild adventures." "That's not what I want to hear right now," Kaya breathed, her patience wearing thin. The rocking was not helping. "But what if we really do get stranded here?" Ree replied, her tone growing more serious. "We'll be Earthlings, so obviously we'll have to intermingle with the locals to ensure our survival." "That's enough!" shouted Kaya, her fears beginning to grip her. Ree's idle rants usually did not mean much to her, but this one struck a chord. "I don't know about you, but just the thought of mixing with this race of people is just not appeasing to me right now. I think I would go crazy if I had to get involved with one. This is a very narcissistic culture. Nothing would please me more than to leave and never come back again." Ree inched back from the volume as Kaya was not afraid to boldly express her opinion, even out in public. A few children playing in the sand behind them popped their heads up, glancing at the strange pair on the pier. "I have forgotten how sensitive you are on the subject," Ree nonchalantly replied. "I would have thought you would have gotten over Brawn by now." Kaya flinched from the mention of the name. Her feet slipped back down into the water, creating a splash that shot up, soaking both their lower halves. "I thought I told you to never mention that name ever again," scolded Kaya. Ree brushed a few drops of water from her book. She shook her head before fixing her weary gaze at her hopeless partner. "Well, you should get over it anyway," she replied. "Not all humans are the same. I'm sure you could find someone you like without any problems." Kaya shook with jowls clenching, fingernails digging deep into the wooden planks beneath her. Turning her head, she blew out a bated sigh. She tried to release her anger, reminding herself that it just wasn't worth the time. "You didn't hear a word I said," she mumbled in defeat. Kaya knew better than to try to argue with someone who did not have the capacity to pay attention to the specifics, even after muttering some ridiculous quirk about nothing. Ree began to stand up, stretching her arms toward the sky. "Come on, Kaya, let's go get an iced mocha or something," she suggested, while picking up the rest of her things. After making sure she left nothing else behind, Ree began to walk back toward the shore, humming some awful tune she had been listening to on the radio recently. Kaya sighed. She put her arms back and gazed at the lake one last time. She pondered, like so many times before, why me? Her eyes turned toward the sky, desperately seeking an answer to her deepest wish. "Oh, why can't someone come and rescue me from her?" she asked out loud, as if someone were listening to her request. After a few seconds, there, of course, was no reply. Kaya shook her head, a smile finally escaping her. She raised herself from the pier and followed her bumbling cousin, who was rereading the book, all the way back to the car. She at least admired Ree for her sense of adventure. Yet at the same time, she was grateful that it was kept safely within the confines of her own mind. Kaya envied her innocence as well, ultimately realizing that Ree did not know any better. "No, Ree, you are the hopeful one," she thought to herself as her pace slowed a bit. She watched her cousin waving at a few children who were playing in the sand. "I, on the other hand, am hopeless."